All right, I know you guys been waiting on the video. Things have been hectic in my real life. I've been dealing with a lot with both my apartment and there's just been a lot of moving pieces. Even with work, I've had to get some work done. But let's get into another episode of Autosave. And boy, oh boy, is this a big one because I've been waiting to talk about this. There's been a lot of news lately. I know there's been a lot of negative news, primarily with Microsoft and Xbox, but negative news is just the gift that keeps on giving. So it looks like PlayStation, Sony said, you know what, let me see how I can really one up Microsoft in the negative space. And they just decided to say they're going to end all physical media support, which means the ending of production of all disc-based related products. That is huge for multiple number of reasons that I'm going to get into. But according to PlayStation's official statement, which you'll probably see up in the video in a bit, is they blame it on a shift in trends as newer generation does not buy physical media. And they state that this is done to drive innovation by using their resources towards, moving towards that the newer generation and how people consume games and media. I don't think that Sony truly understood the magnitude and how huge of a decision this is and how much facets of the gaming and just physical media space industry this affects, right? This highlight is primarily on Sony because they're the leader right now in the console space. They're considered a leader in the console space since the success of the PlayStation 4. Now, this is not to say that if Microsoft would have made this decision, it wouldn't have been as big, because if the roles were reversed and Microsoft was in the position that PlayStation is in, they would have made this decision, it would have been a huge negativity as well. But because PlayStation is in the place that they're in the console space, meaning that they're right on top, I guess it's really neck and neck between them and Nintendo. They don't understand how much effect this is going to have on all areas of the gaming space, right? I honestly believe that a lot of this is influenced by the release of GTA 6 and what Rockstar announced. So if anybody was paying attention to that, they announced that there's not going to be any physical disc. So when you buy the box for GTA 6, it's only going to come with a code inside, right? And GTA is such a huge game that affects so many people are afraid, or companies are afraid, or don't even want to release around the time that GTA is going to release. And they also have such a market share in the gaming industry that I think Sony probably saw that, and their leaders were like, well, if they're not going to do that, then we shouldn't even have to release our games. And I don't think Sony realized how much of an effect this is going to have on the gaming space. Mom and pop shops, electronic gaming real retailers like GameStop and plenty of other spaces will be affected. This is also going to affect the preservation of games and media. This also, and on top of this also comes out after news of Sony closing down the PS3 store and the PS Vita store. So they're closing down these digital spaces, and then they're ending physical media. Sony right now sells so many games, right? So many games because of their position in the console space. When they stop making physical games anymore, that means that you're not going to be able to go to these electronic retail stores like the GameStops, like the Best Buys and stuff. Best Buy is a little more safe because they sell other electronic products, right? But a place like GameStop or the small mom and pop shops, like there used to be one close to me and my friends called Game Express, all of those are going to get shut down because most of their revenue, I would bet, come from people buying PlayStation games. And now that they're not going to be able to buy those PlayStation games because Sony is not going to print them, you're not going to be able to get the games anymore. And now you're probably thinking like, oh, why don't these game companies print out their own discs for the games, right? Well, one, if Sony decides to go digital only, they're probably not going to have any disc drives in their consoles anyway. Two, Sony's factories require games produced on their platform to be created and manufactured through their own factories. They have a factory in Austria that has over 300 employees that produce these games. They produce about 600,000 discs, I think a day or a week. I don't remember which one. Meaning that if you don't funnel your game through their factories that produce the disc, you can't get discs printed for their games, right? So not only do they have a monopoly on that, they're also going to have a monopoly on the store. What do I mean by that? If they're not going to be producing any physical media for their game consoles anymore, right? They're not going to be producing any physical media at all to meet future market trends and drive innovation, as they say. Why close down other digital spaces, such as the PS3 store and the PS Vita store? There's so many PS1 classics, if you guys remember, that you're not going to be able to get anymore, right? And a lot of those games, you wind up having to rebuy every time you get a new console. So that means that all of those games that you enjoyed on those older platforms, that if you don't buy them now, you're going to be locked out of them. And you're not going to be able to play them again unless you purchase it on a newer platform, if they're even released on a newer platform. I'll give you an example. One of my favorite games of all time, Xenogears. You could get that on the PS3 through the PlayStation stores, right? Through the PS1 classics. You cannot get that on the future consoles. You can't. Now, many companies have spoken out about this decision from Sony, which include GameFly. You'll see their post there from on X. Aeternum, I probably butchered that, Game Studios, and there's been plenty of others who've spoken out about this. Some companies have also asked fans to boycott by canceling their PS Plus accounts and prescriptions because of this, right? This is going to have such a huge effect on the industry, and the industry is already suffering from the rampocalypse, right? That I honestly don't know. I don't know what's going to happen next, right? Gaming has always been considered a hobby, but now it's becoming more and more of a luxury. That it's, I don't know if it's because of the economy. I don't know if it's because of what's going, just corporate greed, but it's just so much going on that it's just making it harder and harder to enter this space, right? And there's so much money in this space that it's weird that these companies are making it harder for, people who enjoy and consume games to enter this space, right? Ooh, pardon me. Something just flew in my face. Now, how is Sony going all digital different from PC gaming and Steam? Because I've been hearing this a lot. Now, the difference is that Sony only has the PlayStation Store. So, you can only buy games through their PlayStation Store. PC gaming does not work that way. They do not have one store outlet to buy games or products. Now, many people believe that Valve Steam, which is their own company, seems to be where PC games are bought and sold only. No, that's just the most popular and well-known. There are other outlets that exist, such as Epic, GOG, Amazon, and that's just to name a few. There's plenty of others where you can buy games, Humble Bundle, and you can actually own these games. GOG, for example, is a big one where if you buy a game through GOG, they give you the files, meaning that you don't have to go and be online or sign out on some other platform to play the games. See, in this case, the PS Store is acting as a monopoly because not only are they pulling back from having their games on PC, they're not adding any other outlets to buy and or play digital products that you buy through them. Now, why is that dangerous? The danger with only owning digital content is that you don't truly own it. And where have we seen examples of this? There's been several cases, even with Sony, where content bought digitally can just be blocked just for partnerships and licensing ending. This happened recently for multiple users who bought movies off of their platform recently, that they no longer have access to those movies. I forget which licensing or agreement ended between Sony and this movie company, but people lost access to over 400 digital movies. That's money spent and paid. Movies aren't even cheap these days. Some of them cost what old games used to cost, which was the $49.99 one. This is the biggest news, and honestly, it's a huge shift in the gaming market. I've been waiting to talk about this because this is going to change everything largely moving forward, right? And according to the statement by PlayStation, this are gonna end in their Sony's official statement by January 2028, meaning that they're giving people a year, basically a little more than a year, but a year to really change. They're forcing them to change how they sell. Because think about it, most games, as much as I love PC gaming, most games are bought on Sony owned products. Now, because like I said earlier, the success of the PlayStation, and indies probably really rely on it too, and other AAAs. And the fact that they're doing this is like, this is what happens when a company really has no competition. They feel like they own the market and they really can shift trends, because that's why they're doing this. It's super dangerous, and they know they have the leverage to do this because of how expensive it is now to get into PC gaming. Now, PlayStation has blocked all social media access, meaning that none of their accounts on social media are active right now because of the discourse brought by this change. It's huge. It's huge news. Now, this is not to say they're the only ones going digital. Xbox has also announced they're going digital only. But like I said, it doesn't have as much of an impact because they're not as much of a leader in the gaming space, right? But here's the difference. Because I've been ragging on Xbox for the past few because of a lot of their decisions and the fact that they're laying off so many people and closing down so many studios. There's a big thing I didn't talk about on the PlayStation side too, is that PlayStation has repurposed their Austrian factory that prints out discs to printing out, not printing out, but creating micro lenses. So some of those people get to keep their jobs. I don't know if there's going to be any layoffs, but they did repurpose that factory. Now, for Xbox, right? I've been ragging on them. Here's the difference with them going only digital versus PlayStation. One, they're not one of the forefront leaders in the console space, right? Two, PlayStation is not only moving digital. The difference is that Xbox is working on adding Steam incorporation so users can have access to their Steam library, where Sony is pulling away their games from PC. Xbox is adding other avenues to play and enjoy your games through their console space, whereas Sony is pulling away from it. The Xbox is also working on a disc-to-digital copy. Now, what does this mean? This is going to allow users to take their physical games and add them to their new hardware by creating a digital copy of the game on the system, right? They're adding other avenues to purchase and have games, not only solely tied to their stores. This also removes them being the overall controller over your games and the items that you own, right? Within the gaming space. This means that if you have games on Steam and you play games on Steam, you can enjoy them on your Xbox if you don't necessarily have a PC, and you can play it on your Xbox. That's huge. That's big. Now, I don't know if Sony's going to do something like that or look at because of all the discourse and incorporate that, but they really need to think about that, because either way, the physical media going away from Sony's side is going to destroy the electronic gaming retailers' economies. Like GameStop is more than likely, unless they do a huge shift in their selling, it's going to shut down. The smaller mom and pop shops are going to be non-existent. It's going to be nuts, right? I don't know. This really shocked me. Like, I was talking about it since the news came out, but I was letting more news come out, pardon me. And not only was I letting more news come out, I also had, like I said, a bunch of personal stuff I was going on in my own household that I didn't even get to stream until yesterday, right? On top of that, there's more bad news. So the Steam machine came out, and we talked about it in the last video about how expensive the Steam machine was. Now, if that wasn't a problem enough, if the Steam machine wasn't expensive enough, it looks like they're now experiencing a red line of death, or the RLOD for short, due to GPU failure. What does this mean? This means that users who are buying the Steam machine, if you remember way back when Xbox had the Xbox 360 and they had the red ring of death, the Steam machines are experiencing the same thing. This failure is causing consoles not to boot anymore. And what sucks the most is, since the GPU is integrated into the motherboard, it's not user replaceable, not Not at all. So now you would have to ship these things back to Valve and wait even longer. It's such a mess. I can't wait for some good news to come out of the gaming space. Outside of games actually coming out, the way the boxes in which you enjoy your games have just been getting hit one after the other. PC with the RAM, well, the RAM's affecting everything, but especially PC gaming, right? Sony with the physical media, Xbox with the large layoffs of company, right? And Sony has also announced that they want to bring in more AI. It's crazy what's happening right now. I just hope that we get some good news soon. I really do. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Autosave.
Like and subscribe!